Okay, so this is the darkest Spider-Man comic I have ever read. And no, that's not any word of an exaggeration. This comic is dark. So let's review the latest issue in the Zeb Wells Spider-Man run. If you guys have been following my videos for a while, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of Zeb Wells' run, as are most of you. And the thing is, I'm not gonna lie, the last issue that was released was actually pretty good. This new arc follows Peter Parker with the traits and abilities of the Green Goblin, after being touched by a spear which contained the powers of the Green Goblin by the Goblin Queen. Yeah, it's complicated, alright? It's complicated, but just bear with me, okay? But since then, Spider-Man has taken the trait to the Green Goblin and has tracked down the people who have wronged him, including in the last issue, Kraven the Hunter, who felt the wrath of Spider-Man. And the last issue took a lot of notes from Kraven's last hunt. Instead of Spider-Man being buried alive, it was in fact Kraven who was buried alive. And if that wasn't dark enough, Peter gave him a gun and said, if you want to take the easy way out, you can. Which I already thought was dark, but you ain't seen nothing yet. This issue takes it to a whole nother level. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm really starting to enjoy this arc. I know a lot of people will still say, you know what, this issue, this arc, this whole run isn't for me. Fair enough. But I'm not gonna lie, I really like this story. I really like the idea of Peter being infected by the Goblin, like it's something controlling his mind. Almost like Cordyceps in The Last of Us. Yeah, very random comparison, I know. I love The Last of Us, so just, you know. Either way, I think this is a really cool concept and something that we've actually never seen before. That's why I really like this arc, and I really like this issue as well, because it continues this theme and runs with it. It doesn't back down. We start off this issue with Peter hunting down Tombstone. We know Tombstone has been a formidable foe of Spider-Man throughout his entire career. Not just that, but Tombstone has actually been a main player in the Zeb Wells run so far. Apart from these books and these issues in this arc, I'd say that Zeb Wells' most successful books in his run so far was the ones with Tombstone. And now it kind of comes full circle because Peter unplugs his life support. If you don't know, essentially Tombstone is on life support because at Janice Lincoln and Randy Roberts' wedding, he got shot, meaning that he was incapacitated. And since then, he's been on life support the last couple of issues until Spider-Man unplugs it. Spider-Man unplugs someone's life support. Think about that for a second. Now, some people will say that's not Spider-Man. It's not. I get that, but this is Spider-Man controlled by the Green Goblin. This is why I love this, because Spider-Man is a completely different character. And that's why I love it, because it's so unhinged, it's different, it's new, and it's something that we haven't seen before. And the comics, like we mentioned in my last video on Saturday, the comics just reiterate loads of stuff time and time again, and it gets tiring, and it's like, just do something new. This comic actually is doing something new, which I really enjoy. Not only that, this issue explores the story of Kraven as well, as he's buried underground. Kraven is kind of toying with himself, saying, should I end it now, or should I fight my way out of this mess? And Kraven almost is kind of portrayed as a hero in this issue as well, fighting on the side of good. Peter is generally considered the bad guy in this issue, and we follow Kraven the Hunter and Norman Osborn throughout this issue as the good guys, which, if you had no idea what this issue was about, you'd think was really weird. But either way, Kraven manages to fight his way out of the grave, and he's actually saved by Norman Osborn in the end. But we'll talk more about the ending in a little bit. So not only do we follow Kraven, like I mentioned, we also follow Norman Osborn in this issue as well. And yes, Norman is actually a pretty likable character in this issue. As we know, Norman's sins were reversed, and after the Goblin Queen tried to put the sins back into Norman Osborn, obviously failing and putting them into Spider-Man instead, Norman is obviously trying to do his best to get Peter Parker back. But not only that, Norman is displaying his goodwill and good traits to try and save the people who he thinks Spider-Man is going to go after. One of them being Mary Jane and Paul. Now, I actually jokingly said in my last comic video that I thought Spider-Man would go after Paul. Did I actually think he would go after him? No? Is it funny? Yes. Personally, this is the only weak point of this issue. I thought if you're gonna do something where Spider-Man just becomes a ruthless killer controlled by the Green Goblin, the last person you would go after is Paul. And yes, Paul has been a main character throughout this run, so it makes sense for Zeb Wells to use Paul as one of the examples as to who Peter would go after. But there's been so many people throughout Peter's life that have wronged him that you could have used for more interesting stories. The issue is that Paul isn't a very interesting character. So if Paul dies, I ain't gonna care. So that's the issue, right? So Paul isn't an interesting character. I don't care that Peter's going after him. It is what it is, right? The only person I care about in this situation is Mary Jane Watson. And I'm not gonna lie, they ain't gonna kill her off, so I'm not even worried about her, okay? Either way, I don't care about Paul. Just like how they used Kraven last issue and how they used Tombstone at the start of this issue, I wish that they used another villain that Peter could have gone after, because I thought that would have been a hell of a lot more interesting. Either way, Peter goes after Paul, but not after beating up Norman Osborn. Oh my god, this was dark. So just before Peter goes after Paul and Mary Jane, which leads us to the end of the issue, just before this, Peter decides to beat the living hell out of Norman Osborn. Spider-Man goes after everyone that wronged him, as I said. However, the Green Goblin side of him decides that Norman Osborn isn't actually worth going after. Either way, Norman is left bruised, bloodied, and every bone in his body is probably broken. Spider-Man goes after Mary Jane and Paul, but when he goes to track them down, he is encountered by none other than the Goblin Queen. But just as he is encountered by the Goblin Queen, it is also revealed that Norman is at Kraven's grave, digging him up, helping him escape. So now this leads us on to the next issue, where it looks like we're going to have an encounter between the Goblin Queen, Kraven, Norman, and Spider-Man, and it's going to be a full rematch between all four of them. The Goblin Queen comes back returning, saying that Spider-Man wasn't the one that she needed to inherit the Goblin powers, obviously that being Norman Osborn. That wasn't the plan at all, so she's going to try and revoke the powers from Peter, it looks like, in the next issue. And it looks like with Mary Jane also having powers and being in this situation as well, it looks like it might be a 5-way fight in the next issue, which looks like it will be really, really awesome. But yeah, I really like this issue. The art is great as well. I really love Gleason's art in this issue. It is absolutely amazing. I'm really glad that he's on the book for a few more issues as well. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, a few months ago, I wouldn't have even dreamed of saying that the Spider-Man books were going to get good. I think one thing that I want to say is that I'm glad Zeb Wells didn't hold back. The thing that I was worried about is that there wasn't going to be any lasting consequences from Peter getting these goblin powers. I thought it was just going to be one of those things where he gets them, the next issue it's reversed, and Green Goblin comes back or something. I don't know. I thought that's what was going to happen. But no, it turns out that there is actually lasting consequences. You know, Kraven almost died. He almost took himself out. And Tombstone is dead. So, you know, there is lasting consequences. But yeah, that is pretty much it for my review of issue 34 of The Amazing Spider-Man. Make sure to subscribe so you do not miss any more reviews in the future from here on out. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about this issue? And do you like this arc? I want to know all of your thoughts. And also make sure to subscribe, because we're on the road to 50,000 subscribers. So I would really love if we could get that goal at some point in the future. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care and peace.